Hey y'all, it's June the 27th, 2017, and you might be aware we've been keeping up with it on this channel and on the internet in general. We've been keeping up with a situation regarding Katelyn Nicole Davis, and it's a young girl who took her life at the end of last year. She did it on the internet. A lot of people know about her. We're keeping up with the case. I know people who are keeping a very close eye on the situation, any sort of developments. As you might imagine, developments are few and far between regarding this case, regarding any sort of justice that anybody's going to see pertaining to the fact is that we lost a precious life in Nicole Davis, or not Nicole, Katelyn Nicole Davis Rogers, whatever her name is. All right, this beautiful little girl, we lost her. A lot of people want to see justice. They're not letting go of this case. A lot of people are sinking in, and they're thirsty for developments. They're keeping a very close eye on it. I know a person in particular who put up a post yesterday, all right, pertaining to the developments in this here case, all right, and basically, as of recently, the latest developments are that Tammy, who is Katelyn Nicole's mother, decided to take it upon herself to go on the internet and totally shit talk a lot of people, and while also simultaneously claiming that God loves her and she needs everybody to know that God loves her. All right. And so, as you can imagine, it did stir up a sort of a reaction, and people began to shit talk Tammy. Alright, so it's a back and forth here on the internet, I believe on Facebook or something like that. A back and forth dialogue of people totally shit talking to other people. Now, I might remind y'all that that's not productive necessarily. It's not a productive thing to do necessarily, but I found that, you know, in going over those little details of this latest development, there's some significant things to think about as far as the little dialogue that they had. And there's one thing that I want to point out. There's one thing I want to point out for y'all. And I bet y'all a lot of people already noticed it, but I want to go ahead and hammer it home. Here on the internet, what Tammy did, I've seen it many a times before. Alright, as far as posting, as far as putting messages on the internet, you're going to notice that with Tammy's replies and things, no fucking punctuation, dude. And I don't want, I don't mean to cuss and everything like that, but here's the thing, not one little bit of punctuation. This lady's writing out whole paragraphs. There's not a comma, there's not capitalization, there's not periods or anything like that. Here's what I'll explain to you. Not only, number one, does this make you, whoever is doing it, whoever is writing out comments with no punctuation regardless, not only does that make you seem like you're criminally ignorant, like you're absolutely illiterate, not only is that a problem, but here's the thing, here's what I gotta explain to you. Tammy Rogers or Davis or whatever it is she's going by, she knows punctuation. She actually has some sort of grasp on grammar. What she was trying to display right there successfully, that I've seen time and time again, is that she is not giving two fucks. Right? She knows that grammar would help out in her comments as far as reading it. She don't have no time for that. All right? It does not matter what people think about her. The only thing that matters is that she displays and expresses to everybody out there that God loves her specifically. Right? That's the only thing that matters. Capitalization don't matter. Punctuation, grammar, none of that matters. And what I'm here to explain to you is a lot of y'all are going to see this, especially if you get a YouTube channel. You're going to find people commenting and putting absolutely no punctuation. They can't spell words. It's pathetic. It's an absolute disgrace, and their parents should be disgraced. All right. Thing is, everybody should be ashamed about this. Oh, you don't have time for grammar? Well, you don't have time for the internet. Why don't you go to bed? Why don't you sit down and be humble? All right. Thing is, no, they can't have it, because what I want to explain to you is, here's what Tammy is displaying, and I've seen many people display it. Demons. absolute demons bursting at the seams. She does not care to even make herself look good, all right? She don't have no time for punctuation. All she has time for is to express on the internet that ain't nothing. She's innocent as all hell, and God loves her specifically. That's all she has time for on the internet. All right, you're going to see that a lot. All right? It's absolutely despicable, and if Tammy had any sort of shame, which she doesn't, she would be all covered and swimming in shame right now. All right, she would be absolutely just mortified at her own behavior, but she has no shame. That I can promise you. All right, but here's the thing. I'm going to dive into it, and there's a point that I wanted to hammer home, and I'll continue to hammer it home because here's the thing. Here's the end game with this whole situation. You got to understand that people in the know who know about this case, they understand that there's several people they want to see come to justice or be prosecuted in any sort of way, to include Tammy, to include Matthew Reed, to include Luke Callahan, to include this random Asian boy on the internet, to include whoever was catfishing people on the internet, Ben Drown, to include any number of people, to include and especially Anthony Lee Rogers. People want to see a whole host of people come to some sort of justice. I'm sorry to tell you, I'm not a psychic. All but one of these people are absolutely not going to come to justice, and if I had to guess, ain't nobody, a grand total of 0 people are going to come to justice as far as our laws go here in America. And it's not to say that they need to be totally revamped. It's just that we need to draw a harder line when it comes to people absolutely playing with the lives of children. All right. But what I'm here to tell you, ultimately, ain't nobody going to hardly get prosecuted. There might be one person, but a whole host of people need to come to justice on it. And they won't. They absolutely won't. It sounds very depressing, but at the same time, Katelyn Nicole has received a whole heap of justice in the way of people on the internet commemorating her and memorizing or remembering the life of Katelyn Nicole and putting it up on a pedestal, on a spotlight for everybody to see. That, in a way, is justice. As far as people going to jail, you ain't gonna see it, dude. I'm sorry to tell you that. I'm real sorry to tell you that. But here's the point that I wanted to bring up. All right. First of all, as you could tell, Tammy, you could dive in and totally bathe into the hypocrisy of Tammy in general when she considers herself a Christian or whatever like that. You could absolutely, you could taste it in your mouth when you see the words that she's written. All right. Her and Anthony Lee Rogers have definitely put themselves out as purported Christians, and nothing could be farther from the truth. All right. But what I want to explain to you is this. Not only are you not going to see people prosecuted, but what I want to explain to you is in this whole bunch of people that you see here who's all very well been incriminated. None of these people, not one of these people are actually Christians, all right? And you might say, well, that's not a very significant factor. And I'm here to tell you that it is, because a couple of them will claim that they are. All right. Meanwhile, none of them are, because here's the thing about it. A Christian, a not so hypocritical, disgusting excuse for a Christian would understand that we're not perfect. Human beings are not perfect. Right? And actually there is a thing called sin, and actually there's things that you could do that's not necessarily good for others around you. However, maybe it makes you feel good, and so you do it anyways. You think, there's not a victim. It's not a victim of the things I do, and so therefore it's not a sin. I'm not very worried about it. All right. Christians, on the other hand, understand that they sin, and they try not to sin, but they do sin on a daily basis. And they understand that there are consequences for such things. Certain consequences, as you might lose a precious life in that of Katelyn Nicole. These are the consequences of your sinning, as a Christian. You know that there's going to be grave consequences, and therefore you choose to not sin whenever it is possible. Here's what I want to explain about, say, atheists out there, or hypocritical Christians, or whatever, people out there who's just wandering around and everything's morally subjective. What I want to explain to you is there is not a reason in Hades for an atheist or anybody else for that matter to find themselves to be guilty. There's not a reason for it, all right? In the end, a normal person living a normal human life, what they'll do is they'll try to create themselves as victims, all right? I.e. a Matthew Reed, i.e. a Tammy Rogers. They're going to claim themselves to be victims to the very bitter end. It doesn't matter that a complete separate life was lost other than yours. Now Tammy is a victim. Now Matthew is a victim. And everything they've done the best that they ever could. They're shining examples of human beings. Meanwhile, neither one of them, not a mumbling one out of this whole group, will ever get on the internet and say, look, I have blood on my hands, dude. We lost a precious life, and I'm sorry to say that I have some guilt in that my lifestyle is what helped contribute to this terrible, disastrous loss. All right, you're not a Luke Callahan, not a Matthew Reed, not a Tammy Rogers. Definitely ain't not a Anthony Lee Rogers. Ain't none of them gonna come out and say, look, I am very much incriminated in this. I don't know if I should go to jail, but the thing is, I feel terrible because my absolute, just absurd lack of concern has absolutely led to the death and demise of this young girl. Not so much for Matthew Reed. I mean, the thing is, there's things that he could probably have done better. Problem is with Matthew Reed is he himself also will not admit it. You need to come out and say, look, I could have done better. I messed up. And there's blood on my hands. You're not going to hear not one of them ever admit that. All right? And the reason for that is they have no reason to. If any one of these people were actually Christians, they would have all the reason in the world to come out on the internet and spill their guts and let it off their chest. They would absolutely be driven to come on the internet and say, look, I didn't kill this girl. I didn't tell her to kill herself, but you know what? There's more that I could have done. I failed her. I failed this little girl. You're not going to hear not one of them say it. All right? And there ain't no reason for them to say it either. All right, they don't have no moral code. They're making it up as they go along. A lot of people look at the Christian faith and think, oh man, this is ancient. This is all sort of antiquated stuff. And why would I listen to people thousands of years ago? All right, the reason is because you need a moral code. And without a moral code, you're going to pretend to be the victim all day, your whole life. And you're going to blame everybody else for what's gone down, for stuff that you could have changed, but you didn't change it. You didn't change it. All right. That is the problem with having faith in nothing. But understand that as a human being, you're going to have faith regardless. All these people out here questioning like, oh man, I can't believe certain people have certain faith in this. You also have faith. You just happen to have faith in nothing. And it leads you nowhere. It takes you down a direction, a very dark path in which is filled with all sort of constant questions. Why does this happen to me? Why poor me? Oh, woe is me. Why is the world so harmful? And meanwhile, you don't have a moral compass or anything like that. You make it up as you go. Right? That's what we've been taught here in the tribulation. It's just make it up as we go. There's no need to think about things. There's no need to kind of admit that you're all sort of guilty, and so am I. There's no reason for that. There's no reason for justice. All we need is therapy and to pop our children on pills and stuff. That's all we need. It's tribulation. Balls deep up in it. Anyways, I'm gonna holler at y'all. It's June 27th, 2017.